Welcome everyone to the Island Life podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of Survivor. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 48 seasons deep, and I'll be your guide. And joining us on this adventure is our rising Survivor fan with 11 seasons under her belt, and
Hello.
And of course, we also have our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan who just finished his 3rd season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
What's going on, guys? Can we make it a 4th season? We'll see.
Oh, that's some of my favorite parts of this show is seeing those numbers go up ever so slowly but
Yes.
surely.
Soon you'll be
Well,
a
it
little
definitely is getting
toddler.
traction for me.
I can't wait for the moment we go from babies first to toddlers first.
It will happen at some point, right? It's not forever going to be babies first.
Well, it's not guaranteed. You have to earn the title of toddler. But
there'll be an exam after that, And season 47, what happened? No, I'm kidding.
That sounds like a we'll get there when we get there kind of response with no clear timeline.
Look, all I can tell you is we'll get there when we get there. But where we are right now is the finale. We finally got to the end. Season 48 finale. We are going to go from main attraction and then go down from there. So for the finale, clearly Final Tribal is the main attraction, and then we'll go through all the other stuff in the episode. Before we get into any of that, just overall feelings and vibes. It's we got to the end. You now know all there is to know about season 48. How did it make you feel?
Ooh, I feel like it was in a way where I felt in a way okay. I don't know. I felt like I was all right. I've been coasting this season. There are some parts where I'm like, oh, that's cool, that happened, but I can't lie, I've been coasting this season, but the ending, I'm satisfied with.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because season 47, that was the first season I watched, set the bar so high for me, but I think I can't help but relate it to that, and I think it just, while it was a good ending to this season, I think it left a lot to be desired. I thought this season definitely had the potential to do much more. So while it was still enjoyable to watch, I definitely feel like the best way I can explain it is it started off in a way where you're just questioning the decision making by a lot of the contestants. And obviously, we as watchers would tend to do that regardless. But I think this season, more so than the other 2 seasons I've watched, there have been very questionable decisions that I thought were very bizarre. And that led to what was a strong team coming out ahead just from the start of the season when there were 3 different tribes to once you got into post-merge, and the predictability of it made it less enjoyable compared to the other 2 seasons that we've watched. So for me, still an enjoyable season nonetheless, but one that does leave a lot to be desired.
My net vibes are negative. Like when it's all said and done, you add up how I felt at the end of all the episodes together, it's gonna rank as a bad season. If you force yourself to say like the bottom, so it's 48 seasons, so the bottom 24 are bad and the top 24 are good, this is gonna end up in the bad column for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've watched enough seasons. I would probably agree with you there. For me, season 47, cannot praise it enough. Great season. This one just did not hit the same way.
Did you guys think that this season didn't hit the same way because of the winner or just because of the general going on, what was going on?
So I don't have an issue with the winner. I think the last episode pecked the even the episode before it, made for a good pathway for him to build on. But I
Mm.
think just the overall season, the progression of the season, where one tribe clearly was behind from the very beginning and then had weaker contestants coming out, and then you had a dominant group put together. I think that to me made it so that it just felt like if you're on the inside of that group, you're in a good position. And lo and behold, making it towards the final four, final five, you would have been proven correct if you guessed that at the start.
Yeah, is like you're right, a combination of a chaotic pre-merge, but this is the type of chaotic that didn't feel good. The inability to put yourself in someone's shoes and kind of strategize with them because people were not it seemingly acting they were acting in ways you couldn't explain a strategy. You know, it was very confused. So in the pre-merge, that was the Say and Cedric show, particularly Cedric, I think. And although those episodes had their entertainment value of just being bamboozled, like those episodes were not predictable, in my opinion. But after they were all done, after all those crazy episodes were done, you're left like, okay, but where does that leave? What's the story going forward? What's the tribal lines gonna be? And the
Yeah.
post merge really had to have a solid story to make up for it. And and to be honest, often it works out. Often a lackluster pre-merge sets up the chance for a great post-merge because you're left with all the like big players then. But you know, it didn't really play out that way. And I have a lot of thoughts actually as to why. But in summary, we we just didn't get a lot of action in the
No.
entire post-merge.
No, we just had, like, one group that dominated, another group that was just constantly scrambling and holding on to life and was like, "We should do something," but they don't end up doing anything. So you're just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even root for you," you know? Like, you wanna be rooting for the other team, but at the same time, it's like, "But you're not doing anything." So it just kinda makes it hard tough to watch. It's tough to watch those moments where, you see Mitch being like, "I should have done something." It's like, you should have. Like, everybody should have done something. We could have all done the revolution. We could have all done this during this time, but I feel like everyone was always, like, 3 steps too late, and it was over. So, I don't know. That I
But not
felt like a
even the
lot of
other
times it was,
like
like, exciting.
like you point out not being able to root for the other team, there was no other team. It was just
That's true. That's just
everybody
yeah.
else who was never aligned with each
It
other
was the main
anyway.
team and everyone else that was just, like, just flailing. But in the end, those were the one that made up the jury that ended up voting. So in a way, it's just there was a constant talk about jury management. I feel like this reflected it. I feel like the way it was edited to put that on there so many times, it reflected it in the very end. It was right. The people that made it up there were not doing jury management well and end up not getting the votes like they were and then ended up not winning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you framed it pretty well. And the fact that we had that feeling of, hey, these guys are just kind of stringing along. We don't know what exactly they're even doing. Like, yeah, Mitch comes to mind, Mary comes to mind. Earlier, like in the first couple of episodes, Justin came to mind, even with how he got eliminated in a very bizarre way. And that actually leads to a question I have for both of you. What were your thoughts on the use of idols or even advantages in this season? I feels like there weren't too many people who were actually using them, or they felt the need that they didn't even have to.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that it hasn't been used a lot is just because they're so confident that all the other people are not gonna do what they're gonna do. I think the fact that no one's using their idol, I mean, even like Eva using her idol in the end, she didn't need to. She just used it for the vibes because why not? It's the final day. Why not use it? But in her mind, it wasn't a strategic play of this idol, which stinks because I feel like playing an idol without a strategic play just takes away the reason why there is an idol, makes it less fun to watch. Versus like when Rachel did on 47, it was iconic because she used it and she was able to live another day and take out a very big threat, Andy. And so I felt like in this season, since there was just one group that was just dominating, they and that group was not only dominated, but also at the same time very oblivious to the tribe dynamic, making it so they just, although they had that disadvantage, all the other people scrambling, not understanding how to play or what to do. So the advantages were never necessary to play out, making it boring for me. Like, I like those advantages and uses. Like, ironically, the most exciting part was my hated shot in the dark by Mary.
Yeah, I was about to say that,
Yes.
that's the one highlight of the season, and it's like
Yeah.
those advantages, when people had them, they did not feel the need to use them. Even we saw someone give up her advantage, her idol to someone else publicly towards the start of the season. And yeah, what about you, Will? What are your thoughts on that?
I think what was used well. And I understand Eva's final idle play wasn't needed, but absolutely the move to do it 99 times out of 100, the thing to do there is use your idle, because what a stupid way to go home if you have it, you don't use it the last time you can use it. But 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 other stuff, I mean, we saw when Kyle and Kamilla were trying to blindside Thomas, we had advantages in idols, all the threat of idols involved there. Uh, we had the theme of it was a weird, it wasn't that we need to flush Eva's idol, but a constant theme was just the threat of she has it, what if she plays it? So that kept on being part of the story, and it ended up being like no one even trying to get her out in the end. But at first it was, ooh, it's too dangerous. We see Shaheen in the episode, he goes out. He Part of the plan is to pretend that he has an idol, and so that's what gets Joe worried ultimately. So there were themes, but there was a lot of advantages, especially that got left on the table. And first of all, a lot of advantages, period, because you gain them through journeys, and they're just never needed or never used or never earned, because you don't win the journey challenge, and then you just lose your vote and don't get the advantage. So
Right.
I like
Yeah.
to
yeah,
that's true. I like to point out in the very if in the very previous episodes when Shaheen was going through Kyle's bag, if he found Kyle's idol, everything would have been, I feel like, so different. Um, like, just thinking about that
100%.
moment, if
Yeah.
he found it, and it's just, like, kinda crazy to think that everything kinda changed, and I feel like I can't help but think if Thomas was still in this game would be very different.
of
It
course,
it's
of course.
it's fun to think about. It's fun to think about in that scenario. I think at a very high level, my assumption would be Shaheen would be more aggressive, which could lead to him getting eliminated sooner, but the pressure would then also be set up on Kyle, which would also potentially get him eliminated sooner. So it would change the whole dynamic of everything.
Well, yeah, I mean that potentially Kyle or Camilla just go home if that's happening. Like they create a different plan. I think now that we're talking through it, it wasn't necessarily the idols and advantages. When they were used, I enjoyed them. But if you think about it, it was very often involving Kyle and Camilla when those things happened, most of the time. So this is more of a credit to them. When they acted, the episode got compelling. When they didn't act, nothing was going on.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
That's why I have 0 issues with the winner. I think they both played an excellent game. It's not easy to be behind the scenes in the shadows, just discussing things, trying to brainstorm ideas with the limited time that you have without drawing suspicion to yourself. So to be able to do that for the entire season, get yourself into the finals, that speaks volumes.
For sure. He played a good game. Like, Kyle played a good game, and I also like that he played a respectable game. He was very respectful, throughout the whole entire thing. I felt like the dynamic of this, them talking and trying to sell themselves was very much more respectable than Force 47, I feel. And I felt like Kyle till the very end kept his word, kept his promise with Joe, and that's something to respect. And I really like that. He was always like a good guy. To the very end,
Yep.
you don't hate Kyle for being a liar, for playing the game Survivor. You come to respect him and like that he is a very good stand-up guy and deserved this win.
Yeah, very wholesome season overall, outside of a few people, Chrissy. But yeah,
No, Chrissy, respect to Chrissy. She's saying what we're all thinking. Let's go into the final tribal because there are some interesting themes that come out of it, and we're gonna start with Chrissy's. So our here's our main attraction. Final tribal. Final three ends up being Eva, Joe, and Kyle. That's our three potential winners here. When Chrissy speaks up, basically she's aims her question at Joe and Eva and tries to say, okay, both of you keep talking about how your two-person alliance is what got you here, but tell me how you alone intend to win. Like both of you can't win. And technically that question was to Eva, so it ends up being Joe who jumps in to defend her and by extension defend himself too. But it felt like both Eva and Joe being there hurt both of their chances at winning compared to if only
right.
one of them was there.
Oh, for sure, because it kinda undermined their game because they were playing a game together, yet they weren't playing that big of a game, though. Like, they were the most public alliance, but Like, what else? Like, give me more, you know? And you didn't get more. I feel like the biggest thing is that they had a good alliance, which everyone like, other people can say that too. So I don't think that's a good enough selling point. It wasn't selling me, the fact that you had a really good alliance with somebody that you're still on, like, in the top 3 with right now.
But it really
It
seemed the criticism was all each of your moves was to get to this point, but were any of your moves made to get past this point, which means winning. And I feels it feels like what the criticism is. So I don't know, like does that ring true for you? Like do you think less of either? Well, first of all, do you think that either of them had a end game here, like a way to win, like a plan of how to win? And if so, like does it hurt them that it involved each other, or is I mean, that's fine? It's just another way to win.
it's tough to say. I think just
Mm.
because yeah, like, just from the outside looking in, it does look like they're getting into the finals, but they're also kind of at a crossroads because they have to then be dealing with each other when they've stuck together the whole time. I liked how you phrased Chrissy's question because like I get the purpose of the question. I just don't think she phrased it as well as you did. So I
Oh, I thank you.
my takeaway was the way that Joe responded. Yeah, like she's coming at it like, you know, they have to be looking out for each other just because if they're trying to make it to the end, they're going to have to deal with each other. Of course, that is very much the reality. That is what Kamilla and Kyle would be dealing with too. They wouldn't have the hardship with that because they have a much more private unionship compared to Joe and Eva. But I think that speaks testament to the the game that they played. Joe and Eva, like everyone knew right from the get-go, like from like the first few episodes that they were together. Everyone kept speaking about it, pretty much came up in like every episode. Eva was then given an idol. People had multiple opportunities to try to take them out. Some of them did make an effort to do so, but they failed. Why? Just because there were other bigger threats that ended up popping up or the attention was straight away from them. And obviously Joe and Eva play a part in that. They're not putting themselves out there. Joe obviously is showing himself to have a major threat level that some people are seeing, some people aren't. But he has someone with him who's backing him, who people can feel like, okay, well, they're weaker if they go in together, so I might be able to win if I'm dealing with both of them. I don't know if that was majority of the people's end goal, but I think in terms of just like going through that question with Chrissy, my thought was yes, they did have an approach to kind of get through it. Eva, as Mary had put it, Eva was being herself. She was being forthcoming, she was playing a game in a way that, she obviously has hardships due to her situation, and she has to learn to get over it, or she has to learn to fight through that, and that's the nature of Survivor. I think Joe, in the same vein, he's not seeing it as a sign of weakness, as he's saying himself that I'm helping Eva just because I have the opportunity for it. It's completely outside the game. I just see her as someone who's in need of help, and I'm someone who can give her some help. I believe him when he says that, right? Because like that does not come across as a winning strategy if you're putting yourself out there in a union. You're just putting a target on your back, which is what we pointed out when they first were vocal about it in those first few episodes. I think Joe's game was more geared towards honesty, just playing a strong game, playing a competitive game. A lot of what David was speaking to, really, also you could overlap with Joe. But Joe at least had the sense of leadership that David was kind of lacking. So I think for him, he was trying to be a balanced package and someone who others could rely on. He just obviously got hit with roadblocks along the way with some of those later eliminations, and some of the jury members who probably would not be as receptive towards him.
Yeah, I feel like Joe's play was he was here not to win $1,000,000, but to win 1,000,000 hearts, and 1,000,000 hearts he won because he won my heart, this heart right here, and I'm sure many others. Um, I think Joe came to play, we know that Joe came to play to for his sister who've passed, and I think he did like her proud, he wasn't a villainous character, although I feel like the majority of people didn't like the way he played in terms of there was no like a smart play per se, or people were probably the majority of people are frustrated that nobody is like targeting him or Eva. However, he did truly kept his word. He played an honest game. He played a really good game. He wasn't villainous. I don't believe anybody was like a full on villain. I don't would say, I don't think Joe was, but I think that he was just part of Survivor, and he didn't necessarily it didn't felt like he was playing it. He was just part of it. But yet he was part of a big alliance that felt bigger than it was. And I mean, even during tribal, he was shook. He was like, his eyes were like, "What did you just say?" Like, he couldn't believe his like number 2, number 3 ally, like Kyle has been working with Kamilla under his nose the entire time. Like, he couldn't differentiate what was noise and what was the truth and what was just noise. He simply couldn't, like, do that. He fell for, like, knowing, like, thought Shaheen was gonna take out, which is interesting because during that time, Eva kind of took credit on the blind side of Shaheen, even though it was all planted. They were little seedlings being planted by Camilla and Kyle, yet they kinda try to take that as one of their things that they did, even though it wasn't theirs. So I feel like, even during that time, they ain't gonna win. Like, it was obvious that Kyle is getting all of it, because Kyle's been the mastermind of that all.
That was the big turning point at Tribal. That was the question was essentially, I think it was just simply like, give me a strategic moment. Is I think essentially what that question was. And it leads to Eva talking about, and I think it's like to Shaheen, like, when we got you out, it was our big move because we had heard that you were plotting against us, and so we had to strike first. Which from as far as she knows, that is how it played out. And this is a rare time that someone can actually claim a move was theirs and theirs alone. Because usually what happens is there's like a consensus vote, like the whole alliance ends up doing it. It's hard to really pinpoint whose move it was. Like, sure, we see someone's confessional first, but I don't know what time and day that happened. But this time, clearly, Camilla and Kyle had a plan and executed that plan unbeknownst to anyone else, not the person they voted out in Shaheen and not the other people still in the game, Joe, Eva, Mitch. So this was a huge, and this is the best. We see this as tribal sometimes. Someone claims a move and says, actually, this is where you're wrong, and you're wrong because I fooled you. That is an awesome thing to say. And you saw Kamilla like practically jumping up and down, ready to jump in at Kyle's defense, which
she was like a proud mother.
There's nothing wrong with that. The jury can do whatever they want. Not at all. But it is technically you would prefer the survivor finalist to make their own case versus one of the jury members to make it for them. But I mean that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that was interesting. She did kind of like, Kyle, if you want to talk more about this, like probably afraid Kyle would be quiet, but I did like that she was excited. She was like, oh, this is the time. This is the moment to jump into this and discuss about it. And I loved it. That was awesome.
She just set that up for him. It wasn't even a case of him saying, oh, okay, I can speak to that. It was her saying, Kyle, do you want to say something about this? So it was just funny. But
but credit to his social alliance then.
Yeah.
With like it wasn't only because like they were an excellent strategic pair, but if that was all they were, she might not have been as eager to jump in for him here. But since they were strategic and socially aligned, they played out like it played out.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, not to detract from the sequence right here, if we're talking Kamilla, this final episode, great showing from Kamilla too, regardless of the fact that she didn't make the final three. One of the highlights of the episode for me being the challenge just before, which led to an elimination, getting into the final four. That entire sequence was just so, what's the word? I would just say interesting. But the challenge itself was just unreal in the sense that it was something as I was watching with you guys, I was making a joke. It was another obstacle course challenge. Mitch, Kamilla, Kyle, Joe, and Eva all having to go in. Eva coming in with an advantage, which helped her with part of the race. But they all essentially had to go through this obstacle race full of like physical challenges, going through the mud, shooting a ball through the net, ending off with a survivor puzzle, creating a fire out of these building blocks. And Kamilla got off to, without a doubt, the worst start. And it was looking very bad for her. Joe got an early lead, and it looked like he was just going to take advantage of it. And Kamilla, from dead last, ended up coming all the way back and winning that challenge. And the theme that they were showing for this final episode, too, despite the fact that she did get eliminated eventually, was that there was a voice in her head telling her, giving herself positive affirmation for once, rather than having some sort of negativity. She was starting to build herself up. And for someone to do that pretty much near the end of the game, and they're just on they're just about to get eliminated because they're seen as a threat, it just goes to show how much of a capable survivor finalist she could have made too.
Yeah, that was like the definition of underdog right there. That was like an underdog moment where you're like, I was like, oh, Kamilla in the back again, not going to win this. But then you see a puzzle and you're like, everyone's struggling. And she goes in there and like does it flawlessly. It was so incredible. And as like someone that always like has this negative thing, like kind of like what Kamilla was explaining, it was very refreshing for Joe, like Jeff, to always like give that, like tell her to like, don't think that, like what is like positive Kamilla thinking, like now this is negative, this is old Kamilla, but I want like current positive Kamilla. Kamilla say, I can do it. I got this. This is easy. Like I love that. I love that they took that time, although didn't help her in the end, but you know what? I like it. It was thought that counts, Jeff, and I love that. But I still blame you for cursing Joe for saying like, oh, if you only won, you'll be one of the few people that have won 5 immunity challenges. And there he goes, not winning the 5.
He had to point it out right before their challenges. Like, he couldn't have waited until after to
Oh
point
my
it out,
gosh,
despite
the
the fact that they had more
pressure.
challenges to go.
The
Yeah.
pressure, like, why
No,
would
he
Which
you
is
definitely
mention
strange he was
that?
used them.
doing that to in preparation for him tying a record, not even setting a record too.
Yeah, I would have waited for that. I would have been like, "Okay, now you've tied it." And I would have said it afterwards. I wouldn't have, like, told him before the challenge starts. Like, man, that's how you get on someone's nerves.
That would get me. I'll be like, "Dang it." And then he mentions it again too. It's not like once, but twice. I'm like, "Oh man, now I'm not gonna do it."
Yeah, no, that was a yeah, really thinking back on it, why talk first of all, why talk about it in the second to last challenge? And why talk about it when it's just a tie, not to set the record? And in the end, because he lost both, he didn't win either of them. He just ends up as another good he actually despite Joe, we think I mean, he was an awesome challenge piece. He's now just another good challenge guy because
I don't know
he's
what you
neither
guys think about it,
tied or anything.
but I felt like if I was Joe, I would be pretty upset by that because, like, it seems like such a minor thing, but that does, in a sense, give you a mental handicap. Because, like, then you start thinking about that. Like, I would much rather not know that because then I'm completely focused on what is the next challenge. And I guess you could play devil's advocate and say, okay, like, part of the game is supposed to be you're supposed to tune that out. But, like, that's not stuff you're saying to anyone else. You're directing that towards one person. Like, so you're putting them in the position where they need to do that. And other people are just like, oh, okay, this is just another challenge I have to win. So I don't know. I felt like that was an unnecessary thing to have to say on Jeff's part. I I do agree. I think it's good to point it out, but point it out after he actually sets a record rather than, like, frame it up for him before he even accomplishes the feat. So,
I mean, he
Yeah.
does just yell at people like, "Ange in dead last again," if you were on the teams.
Yes, it would be like that. Although I get that though, F. I completely get it. As someone that's kind I'm not, I don't want to say I'm superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. As someone like when I used to take exams, I would not want someone to be like, "Oh, you did so good," or "You definitely got 100," or like, I do not want you to say that. Like, don't give me that negative energy. Like, you are just cursing me at this time. So I feel that. Because the moment he said that, oh, he sealed my fate. You're basically saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get it now. Thanks. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that.
and then,
If I
even sorry, go ahead, Will.
if you're gonna be upset, anything, be upset as well while Camilla's stuck in the net and she just like yells out like how do I do this? Jeff actually you gotta rotate your body to get around.
That's
And
true.
like
What do you guys think
you
about
know
that?
Jeff thought for sure she wasn't gonna make it to the end. Jeff thought he's like, "Oh, no, Joe's got such a lead, there is no way he's gonna botch this."
Yeah, like you're not supposed to
But
help
botch it, he
them,
did.
right? Am I wrong? Like, what?
well, first of all, Jeff can do whatever he wants.
Okay, fine,
There's
fine, fine.
there's no oversight. And
Jeff
second
the
of all,
boss.
he's he's like, he had said that earlier in the child. Like, I think that was part of his, like, he narrates and tells the audience what's happening in the challenge. He includes that, like, he that like, that I I didn't take that as, like, actively directed at her, but it's the
Okay.
same instructions he gave everybody else earlier. But I just thought it was funny, like, everyone else is long gone, it's just her. He could have been like, "You gotta figure it out, dig deep," and then moved on. But instead, he actually said what to do.
And just, I just want to make a quick point about Mitch as well, just so we can get back into the, like, the final discussion. Mitch, like, I felt bad for the guy because right after the challenge, everyone knew for a fact that they were gonna vote him out. No one was beating around the bush. They just went up to him and were like, "Yeah, no, it's you." And we're talking about it as he's one of the people who it just felt like he just wasn't doing much, despite the fact that he probably was a good contestant. He was pretty good in challenges. He was pretty balanced. His social game could have been better, but he kind of got on the short end of the stick because he was never in the majority group. So I felt for the guy. I really felt bad for him. I think he played a good game. He did get some bad luck along the way, but that's, every season that's going to happen to someone in Survivor. And I just found
Yeah.
it. interesting that everyone was just straight up with him that, yeah, no, we're gonna vote you out. At least it's both a good thing and a bad thing, but it's just, I think for him, that sort of closure kinda sucks.
Yeah, it hurts because I feel like all they were saying was, like, they don't wanna be in final 3 with him because they know that he's gonna win, and I truly didn't I don't think Mitch himself thought that, so it was very frustrating to feel, like, here you are feeling like you've been the bottom, you're just being dragged along, and then now you're being voted off just because you're too good, so we're voting you out, and I feel like to him, it just doesn't make sense because he doesn't feel that way. It's like that moment where in the beach, like Rachel, Sam, and Andy in the beach, and Sam's just like, "We're voting for you today. Like, this is it. Like, we don't want you're really good." And she doesn't see it that way. And in the end, it was iconic because she had the idol, but unfortunately, Mitch didn't. So it ended up being an easy vote of Mitch going home. So it is he did his best. So goodbye, Mitch.
I yeah, I'm just reminded of the thing Eva was saying, where she said pretty much the entire group minus Mitch. She was like, "Oh, now we have a fun group." It's
Oh,
like,
so
ugh.
hurtful.
Yeah. Like, I know she probably didn't intend to mean it like that. She was just trying to get the vibes of the group back up, but it's like, hearing her say that and just thinking about the implications of that,
Yeah,
oof.
I know. There's
Yeah,
some things Eva says kinda hurt me a little, I'm not gonna lie.
I have 10% sympathy for Mitch because I think that it is possible that part of his overall plan was never to be the biggest threat, and then it like, at this point, surely I'm not the big target, so I'll be able to join forces with whomever's going against the actual big target, whether that be Joe or Eva, even Kyle. So he probably truly did not expect him to be in the crosshairs because why would it be me? But that's only 10%. 90%, I have no sympathy because for 5 consecutive tribal councils, he had plenty of opportunity to participate in plans to disrupt the chain of events, and he willingly chose not to. So I good riddance.
No
90%
sympathy.
good riddance. 10% sympathy.
Okay, fine, 10%.
90% good riddance.
Oof.
And then in that final 5, so the segment when there's 5 people left, I have similar feelings for Kamilla. Despite an excellent challenge for her, an insane comeback, great moment, she ends up in confessional saying that she believes her best move is to vote to try to get Kyle out, but then says that she cannot bring herself to do it as their relationship is too close. So, in other words, strategically, I want to do one thing, but emotionally, I'm choosing to do another thing. Devastatingly bad move. Even worse because of how strategic focused she had been so far. Crushing because I was a big fan of her too, and arguably loses her the game as it
Mhm.
opens the door for her to end up in firemaking, obviously.
For sure. I feel like if she could have blindsided on Kyle and let Kyle go home, she would have had a way bigger chance of winning. Uh, it kinda stinks to see that, because she has been helping out and planning too, but I do like that moment where she tells Kyle, like, like, if I win the next one, I'm gonna have you pick you fire, and then Kyle's like, I feel good because like, I was thinking the same thing, like, we're on the same page, I understand you, you understand me, so I can't help but think, like, if she would have blindsided Kyle, I feel like Kyle would have understand that she had to do what had to be done.
Oh, I think you definitely would have. But that moment made me feel even worse about her because that means she woke up the next day and she's over it. She's like, actually, I can work to get him out. It's fine. When she had the opportunity the previous night, and now it was going to be insanely difficult. As at Final Four, you can't vote anybody out. If they go out, it's in fire. So that that hurt. It actually, like, it's so significant a non-move like my in my head personal rankings of players. She plummeted in my head.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it would have worked much better for her game had her priority been to get Kyle out first, just because of how closely associated he is to her, which, between the two of them, it benefits Kyle more. He's the more vocal of the group. You would see similar issues if they were both going to final tribal. Not as evident as Joe and Eva, but like still like they overlap in certain things, so they would be splitting certain votes. I think for her, it is a higher risk getting Kyle even to the final four rather than Mitch. I think Mitch would make for a pretty good finalist. I think the jury would actually like Mitch, is what I would like to think. But I think she would still have an easier time matching up with him, dealing with him had Kyle been part of the jury, because he would have been a +1 for her.
Yeah, for sure. It
Yeah,
kinda
most
hurt
likely.
during that when they're all like, "Oh, we would have voted for Kamilla," and I'm like, "Guys, come on. That's tough to hear."
Yeah, so that disappointed me heavily with Camilla. But same idea though. You've got Eva and Joe who also want to target Mitch. So do you think for either of them targeting Kyle would have been better? I mean, clearly, considering by the way they lose to him in the finals. So I guess this is self-explanatory. But what do you think?
I think the flaws would still present themselves compared to Mitch. I think Kyle would be a strong finalist because of the moves that he made, but I think Mitch would still give them both a run for their money. You would have some votes split between Eva and Joe. Eva could end up winning it in that case, but I think I could still envision a case where Mitch beats both of them.
I feel like the jury likes Mitch more than they like Joe or Eva.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't understand Cedric, so Cedric goes rogue, so does Mary. I feel like they do what they want, so I don't understand them that deeply anymore. Well, actually, never mind, not ever, actually. So who knows, Cedric might pull something on me because it's funny because in the end of the day, Cedric still picks wrong. No matter what.
And for context, folks, she's talking about Cedric being the lone vote for Joe.
Yes.
Joe arguably had the weakest confessional towards the end, where it seemed like Eva could swing some votes, but Kyle had a very strong showing. And we
Yeah.
learned that Joe got one vote, and it was by none other than Cedric.
It's crazy because the moment I see Cedric vote, I'm just in my mom's like, Joe's so losing. There's no way Cedric's gonna vote correctly. And here
Oh,
we
it would have
are.
been so funny if he just wrote down Say's name and Jeff
Oh
opens
my
it and
goodness.
sees Say first, and Cedric's like, "Oh shit, sorry, force of habit."
Oh god.
Oh my goodness.
And
Oh my
Jeff would not
goodness.
like that
Oh.
at all. But I would like
Yeah,
that.
I feel like he, takes this like a true production, Jeff, although is just, hosting, chilling, chatting, he's production, he is team, he is HR, he is management, he is everything. He's like, "Yep, don't you play with me like that."
But so you bring up Joe ends up in third place, receiving one vote. Pretty rare, by the way, just so you guys know. It was mentioned in the after show that it's quite uncommon if there's a 3-person final tribal for all 3 to get at least one vote. That's
Really?
just been
Because
how
I
it
thought
is. So
last season was like that too. Wait, no,
yeah,
actually, you're
who
right,
did that?
Sue had no
Did it
votes, you're right,
happen?
just
No,
kidding,
I
it
don't think Sue
was
had
just
any
kidding, Sue had
Yeah,
no
votes.
votes. Sorry, you're right.
But you
um,
gotta thank our buddy Cedric for that.
yeah,
Anything's
but
anything's
Yeah,
I feel
okay
but
like
at
with
the
Cedric.
same time, if
anything's
Cedric
possible.
didn't put it on Joe, Eva still wouldn't have won, right? With the calculations?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she would not. But it's just it does not usually work out that people could think of reasons to vote for any of the 3 finalists in seasons where there's 3 finalists. But Joe, for a long time, not only did we figure he was extremely strong contender to win, but we quite boldly stated that Eva felt like a 0 vote finalist, that she is useless. You definitely want to stay with her. And she ends up with more votes than Joe.
I know, Will. I was hoping you didn't remember me saying all that and agreeing it on the previous podcast. Right? I'm shocked. They all thought she was gonna be the GOAT, and then you just bring her in, she's gonna have no votes. I don't know what was going on. I'm confused. I still don't understand. I'm in a daze. So can someone walk me through the thoughts of why Eva? Like, why?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's, who can speak the best about how their season went? Joe just was the worst in that regard. Like the other two mentioned elements of surprise within their game, despite the fact that Eva was tied to Joe. Just like Kyle and Kamilla had a secretive, ongoing union. Uh, Eva spoke a lot about having to deal with adversity in a sense that Joe could not speak to, but then she also spoke about the fact that she's pursuing a PhD to be able to be a teacher, which is something that no one else knew about. Just presenting herself in a different vein that everyone thought. And one of the comments that Mary had made, and one of the things that Jeff had asked towards the end of the show, once the votes were all tallied, Mary had mentioned that Eva came across as way more intellectual that she actually led on. So it came across to some of the jury, or at least to one of them, that, she had the capability to do more than she was letting on. And despite that, she was in the final three. So I think, I'm a Joe stan. I think he played a good game, but without a doubt, I would say he had the worst, final speech. He had the worst responses, and that can swing the votes.
But I'm not here
Yeah.
to just rank who's the smartest survivor, like, in terms of, like, a test. Like, it's gotta be what you did. So I think what worked for
It's the
Eva
it's the element of
is,
deception. Like, she had that was my takeaway.
but how did that, so, like, you didn't tell me your profession, but, like, what does that mean? I think it has to, I think you gotta go somewhere with that, and she did. So here's what I think Eva did in Final Tribal. So she does reveal that, and I think the point is, you think I sat around and had no plans, no strategy. Not only was I not thinking for myself, I wasn't thinking at all. But I'm telling you, what I did was intentional. I was thinking all the time about my game because, by the way, I'm not just some hockey player. Like, studying for PhD and working with, uh, actually, I forget all of her qualifications. Listed very impressive uh credentials. I think it was like, here's the reveal of what I do as supporting evidence to my claim that I was thinking during this game and I was making intentional moves. In fact, I got this advantage without other people knowing, and I kept it secret from the rest of you, and the True didn't have to use it. But she even spun the safety without power. She spun it as to, I chose not to use it because thought it was more important to vote with my alliance too. So, like, I think all of that had to be perfect to spin this message of, I meant what I did, instead of just sitting around doing nothing.
Well, that, and, everyone also, well, not everyone, but, like, I'm sure some people, and my own opinion of her was, she was very true to herself, right? It's hard to play the game of Survivor, be true to yourself. It's hard to be honest and get into the finals. And I think you could, to some extent, say that about Joe. I feel like, yeah, you can say that about Eva, despite, the things that she hid were not really things that would, like, cause, like, issues for other people in the game. It's not like they would, like, put her at a massive advantage. The one advantage she had, everyone knew that she had. But I think, she wore her emotions on her sleeve. There were times where, like, she would break down, right? Like, just because she doesn't know how to process certain things. And you would take that as a sign that, like, okay, this person, we don't know how far they're going to get, but like, we don't see them as a threat. But despite that, she made it to the end, right? Like, it's hard to be in that position and make it towards the end. We had two people who essentially played an honest game and made it to the final three. Now, you could say that the people around them, like, were the reason for that. Like, they didn't vote or see whatever, like, their priority should be, and that allowed that to be the case. But regardless, they made it to the final three through some way, shape, or form. So, uh, I think it's hard to be in Survivor and be completely honest, to play an honest game, but she did that to the best of her abilities and continued to persevere despite the hardships that she obviously faced. I mean, I just came across a season where someone gave up halfway through the season. Like,
Yeah.
she obviously
Good
went
loss.
through a
True.
lot. She went through a lot, but she never gave up. She kept going. Even with, like, the fire making, obviously, like, she was very distraught, and Kyle was even second guessing his own decision towards sending her, where he was proposing the idea, "Okay, maybe I should take this as an opportunity to do that." I would have loved Kyle for that if he took that chance. It wouldn't have been the smart thing to do, but man, if he came out of that, won that fire making, he wins right there for me. Like, you don't even have to have the
For
final 3.
sure.
If
Yeah, there's no
if Kyle
speech,
did
just vote.
that, if Kyle did that, he would drop to my least favorite Survivor ever
Oh,
for making a
really?
dumb move.
No.
It would be a horrible, horrible strategic decision,
What
risking it
what you
all for no good reason.
F is like, wow, that
is
is
it is
Yeah.
such
it
a, like, heroic move. Will is like, what a stupid guy.
No, I agree with him. I agree with it. It is not a smart move. Like, I would not do that if I was in his shoes, but that is such a ballsy move that I can't help but respect that.
Yeah, it would be very
But it would
wholesome
be
too,
unnecessary.
It would be wholesome in a way because he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm watching her break down, like, I just wanna not be the cause of this," but
But,
you
like
gotta play the game, you can't just do that.
like, picture this for a second. What if he didn't have some secret alliance with Kamilla, right? Like, I know we're kind of reframing how the season went, but let's say they made it to the final 3 and you're thinking, "Okay, Joe and Eva have an edge." Kyle came across as a strong finalist because of the actions he took over the course of the season. If he's doing something like that, he wins the final. He gets to choose who makes it to who goes to fire making, who makes it to the final 3. If he's choosing himself, he uses that as something that, like, oh, okay, I threw myself into the fire because I'm all about Survivor. I'm all about putting myself in uncomfortable positions and coming out on top. He makes that claim. You can't really say anything against that. Like, that is the makings of a winner right there.
Yeah, I
I mean,
agree.
sure. Yeah, if
I
if he
think he would be a
wins,
winner and a hero if it was me. Like, if he went up there and was like, "You know what? I'm gonna put myself in fire." It's respectable to do that.
Yeah,
But,
he had that
I think
hesitation
it's
because
yeah, but I
yeah,
also feel
sorry, go
like
ahead.
it's more respectable if he did it in a way of, "I wanna help Eva, but also, I don't think Eva can take down Camilla, and I need Camilla out because I'm doing it to win." That would be more respectable to
Well,
do
that's the
that.
thing, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So,
That's
like,
true.
well,
Yes.
yeah, it's not a smart thing to do, even though there's some strategy in that, because he's taking unnecessary risk for himself. If the end result, goes in his favor, like, that looks really good despite it coming off as an idiotic decision.
Yeah. It becomes
it may
very
this
strategic.
this hypothetical gets tricky for him because in the moment the jury has no idea why he would do this. Really? Like, you want to get Camilla out this much? Camilla? Like, they'd be very confused. So then, if he wins that fire making, then he has to spend time explaining it all, and it just could get convoluted.
I
It
mean, I
was a
don't think
lot
that's a
cleaner the
I
way it
don't think
went.
that's a difficult explanation, though. It's that he can tell that she's gonna confirm with him that, "Hey, we both were in a secret alliance, and I felt she was the biggest threat to my game, and we came too far for either of us to get eliminated, so I had to take matters into my own hands."
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And
It
she's not gonna
just it
lie
just
about
doesn't
that. She's gonna be like,
it
"Yeah,
just
he's
doesn't
telling the truth."
have it just doesn't have the wow factors. Like, if like that like, fire making is exciting for what they see right then and there. You asked why people voted for Eva. Star claims she was so amazed by Eva's performance in fire making to collect her thoughts. So just jumping into Final Four Firemaking, Kyle does not put himself in fire, so it's Eva against Kamilla. And Eva starts out okay, but then the wind comes, the dreaded wind.
The
It's
darn
not
wind.
The fire's not going up. It almost burns out, and she's struggling to keep it together. Joe is trying to encourage her from off the side. But meanwhile, while all that's happening, Kamilla can't get it started at all. So because she can't even get fire, so much for the new Kamilla disaster.
Oh, it
Eva's
was the
able
flint. It was the flint.
Eva's eventually able to get the fire back up, and Eva is successful. So Star, so amazed with that, ends up doing it. So that was like a visceral, emotional reaction to Firemaking in the moment. I don't think it comes across nearly as well if it'll like in the moment they'll be confused, and it might potentially be boring, depending, especially if Kamilla does the same thing and can't get anything started and Kyle easily beats her. Then they go to sleep, they wake up in the morning, their opinions start getting formed, and then finally at night, at Final Tribal, Kyle could explain it. It's risky. It can work, and based on how we see them react to Eva and Joe, it probably works anyway, but what an unnecessary risk. So yeah, I would hate it and would never like Kyle ever again.
No, I
If he put
respect that.
himself
I feel
in that
like if we were all jury members, we would all vote differently. For me, I see it as a sign of this person obviously is willing to throw it all away to win at all costs. It's either you win or you lose regardless, and he feels, despite the fact that he does not need to put himself in that position, he feels that's what will help him win at the end of the day. So I can't help but respect that if he truly does win. Obviously, if he loses, that looks really bad because you're like, you didn't even have to do that. But going back to the original point about Eva, I think, like the fact that, she kept the perseverance was there. She didn't give up. She was struggling making the fire. Joe, kudos to him. He went and helped her. And he even said, I don't know if this is something that you'll let me do, like, let me do this. Like, let me essentially do fire making in your stead. And he didn't have to offer that, but he did. But she was reluctant to let him do that. She was more about like, oh, no, I got selected. It should be me. So the competitiveness is there. The fact that obviously she's going through a lot of these hardships, it makes things very tough to like process. When she breaks down, it's hard to collect your thoughts. That's why Joe's been such an amazing presence. He's went above the call and helped her out in ways that he did not need to, just because, that shows that he's just a good human being. So, he, despite that, like, she went through, had these breakdowns, came back, collected herself, and kept moving forward. Another thing I can't help but respect, someone showing perseverance, someone ultimately not giving up and keep pushing forward. I could definitely see the case why people would vote for her. That's an attitude that someone who is a survivor should have, the willingness to keep pushing forward despite all the adversity that you're facing. And did she show that? She absolutely did.
I like the way you explained it. It kind of puts in a new perspective for me to see, like, yeah, I mean, you're right in regards to her persevering. I respect that POV. That puts another POV in my mind on why people picked Eva.
I agree. It's just I just was surprised that for the people that weren't gonna vote for Kyle, that they didn't vote for Joe. It was the person, like you explained it, like goes out of his way, is actually helping at every turn, potentially hurts his own game in favor of making sure Eva the person's okay. And it seems like that wasn't a strong enough reason to pick him versus Eve.
Well, he admitted it in his own response to Chrissy, where he was saying everything that I was doing to help her was outside the game. It wasn't like he himself admitted that, like everything that I'm doing separate from the game. I'm just helping her because as one human being to another, I saw that as an opportunity that I should help this person. So if he's vocalizing that to the jury is going to take what he's saying at face value, right? So, um, did he play a good game? Again, if you're asking me, I think he did play a good game. Going to the confessionals, I did think he had a good chance. If not Kyle, it would have been him. But I think after listening to all the responses, after what the jury had asked, I definitely think Joe had the weakest responses. He could have provided himself a little bit more firepower there, but I don't know what he would have said that Eva couldn't have also tied into. Maybe some of aspects of his leadership that he didn't really get into. But, that was one of those cases where he didn't sell himself as well as Eva or clearly Kyle did. Kyle did an excellent job selling himself.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't help but feel a good amount of the jury already had their mindset. Like, I wonder, it's hard to be like
Right.
non-biased, but I'm also wondering like how many people actually have their minds change when they go through all this. I wonder, like, I kind of want to see like what the people say when they do pick, like before, what were they going to go picking? Who were they going to choose after who they decide to pick? So I'm just curious, like, do they actually get pulled in? Like, how much do you have to do for someone to you go from wanting to vote for F to wanting to vote like Will? How much does it take for you to persuade me? The jury.
Yeah, I imagine their minds are almost made up, but not quite made up. It would just take a monumental revelation to happen to change it. So, if like Kyle's reveal that he had a secret alliance, if some that has the potential to be a monumental reveal. It's just that I also think they probably were leading Kyle anyway, so this was just bonus. Because
Right.
that's my impression. My impression is that Joe just wasn't a big enough threat at all, despite what we talked about on this show and what the edit showed us and what even people in the game talked about. But I'm left questioning all of my criticism of people that never targeted Joe when it turns out he got third place anyway. So perhaps at best, his biggest threat was a challenge threat. So him being there makes it less likely for me to win immunity. But it seems like he was not a dangerous threat to sit next to a final tribal.
Shaheen may have been right all along.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Shaheen,
true. He
yeah.
knew.
The only thing he was wrong about is it seems that Eva at least was a threat a little bit, but he see it. It seems likely now that if he sat with Joe and Eva, then he would win, as he said.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. It's funny because when you're watching it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, Joe is like, such a threat." But I also you gotta think about all the edits in terms of I like Joe as a person. He is a great father. He is a great character in this show. He is a great person and you wanna vote for him and stuff. But in all like retrospect, do the juries respect him as a player? And it doesn't feel like they did. He may be a good challenge beast, he may be the one winning the challenges, but, as, like, Jeff would say in the previous season with Rachel, just because you're really good at challenges doesn't mean you're gonna win, that's not a guarantee thing. Winning challenges doesn't equivalent getting votes from the jury.
Right. Yeah,
And
and I
neither
mean,
does a social game, right? It seems like you would think that most people, even if they don't respect him strategically, would be like, I mean, this guy is extremely upstart. Look at all he's doing for Eva. He is the only people who legitimately could feel betrayed are David and Shaheen. But everybody else was not in his alliance. Just like if you go through the people on the jury, Chrissy and Kamilla and Mitch and Mary
Cedric.
and Star and Cedric. None of them were actually in the core original 5-person alliance, which eventually people got swapped in, swapped out, and ended up being 4 people. So they shouldn't feel betrayed. I mean, they could feel bitter that they weren't in that alliance, but it's not like he went against his loyalties But yet they go with the strategic player in Kyle, and a pretty definitive win here. So I don't know, it's just interesting. So sometimes we're worried about. They said they worried about Mitch, but I don't know. Based on this, I think if he sat with Kyle, he also would get not much respect, as he did not have enough strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know if Mitch was in there, like, what would Mitch say that he's done? Like, what is something he hid away? Like, all these questions, I don't even know what Mitch would say.
Yeah, it leaves you guessing, right? It's with the way that Kyle ended things, it's hard to see anyone having a better approach or a better speech than he did. Maybe Kamilla could give him a run for his money, but it's, even that, I don't know. It's a joint effort where he would be, I guess, taking more of the initiative. You would be because he's the more vocal of the two. People would probably cut him more slack or give him more credit. Even if it's like a 50-50 split or something like that. But on that thought, of people who are detractors of Joe, I think one of the bigger detractors being David. My final question for both of you is, what were your thoughts on David's personality shift?
I didn't understand why he was doing that. Because he was like the whole point, like knock knock, and then it's like this awkward, like everyone's like, "Oh, what is he gonna
Silence.
do? Like beat me up or something?" And he was like, not." He's like, "Not me," and he's back to smiling, and I'm like, What was the point, David? Like, what was the point? Were you trying to like scare everybody, like make everyone worried? I don't get it." And, like even Jeff was like, "Dude," he was like, "Even I got me tricked." Even I was like, "Get over it." It's like, I don't know, man. Oh, I wish they asked him about the whole standing thing, like, "Why did you stand for Mary?" Like, I wish, like, someone mentioned that or Jeff asked that because I need to know what was your reason, and why did you not stand for Mitch and Shaheen? Did they not deserve the standing?
Oh, I'm sure it's behind the scenes somewhere.
Yeah. But I don't know, I was just like, was it necessary? I don't think so, but what do you think, Will?
I mean, the reason he gave was everyone seemed glum, and he wanted people to laugh, which I guess is fine. There's just a weird way to go about it. Maybe effective, maybe not. I think it technically achieved his result, at least temporarily. But it's
Yeah.
more in like shock value and like relief that he's not, because that setup is for him to get yelled at. He sets that up, knock knock who's there, and he calls like a bunch of hypocrites. This is why I hate you all. And it just goes on. And that's kind of where that was leading. So after he
Wow.
doesn't do that, then they have like deep breath, exhale, so they smile a little bit. So it kind of worked, but it was just
Uh,
bizarre.
yeah, I
So
just yeah.
however jarring it was for both of you, it was even more jarring for me because I missed a couple of episodes this season, including the one that he got eliminated. So I haven't. For me, the personality shift was like a complete 180, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with him. I know you mentioned that he was like mewing, like while he was
Yes,
sitting
yes,
down,
he was,
and
and then
that's what I was observing the whole time. Like, what's going on with him?
he got the full camera moment of him mewing, and then, like, him standing, like, up, biceps, like, flexed, like, standing up for, Mary. It's just iconic moment right there.
My favorite part of the after show too included David. Jeff got him a glass of milk, and David
Yes.
educated the rest of us the feminine and masculine way to be drinking milk.
We're gonna
So
have
now you
to
know.
take a video of us doing that for David. Cheers to that.
I would like to think that I've always done it the masculine way. Keyword being I would
I
like
I
to
can
love it,
think.
F.
assure you that you do not have your
Oh,
like
oh,
elbow at a 90-degree angle. It's definitely not how you drink.
Oh, that is where you would be wrong. I was born with my elbow out.
90 degrees.
Yes,
Babies first.
truly, truly, that is a baby's first.
But
I
yes,
mean,
that is Survivor F's first.
if you want a baby's first, I'll give you one. So when we were at the final four, we had our final four immunity challenge, and It was baby's first Simmotion challenge, as you have not seen. We actually voted for this challenge, or at least I did, at that Hands of the Fans vote and many weeks ago. And I tried to describe it to you then. But this was the challenge. They dropped the marble into this could be contraption, spins around and spits on the left side, then the right side, then the left side, then the right side. So this is the ninth time Simmotion has been used in all the seasons. It tends to be quite popular. Obviously, the contestants reacted to it as they saw it when they like came around the corner. Uh, Knowing that there's positive hype around this challenge, did it live up to that hype?
It definitely had suspenseful moments, but it took a while to get there, right? What I mean by that is when it first started, it seemed like a piece of cake. I'm of the thought that if you're doing this challenge, start with 2 balls. You don't even need to start with 1 unless for some reason someone is gonna mess up with 1 ball. I would genuinely be surprised, and this is where I'm guessing you would tell me that I'm wrong at some point earlier in some season in Survivor that has happened. But I'm of the thought that, let's just get into it. Let's make it tense from the start. Start with 2 balls and start escalating from there, because that's when the action starts to get good. Or I would say around 3 balls in, that's when you really have to start thinking about it. But it's a very nice challenge in the sense that it tests your patience, it tests, like, how you're planning and coordinating your moves, and it really puts a focus on things. So and this is something that obviously, like, we as fans can try to emulate at home. I'm sure those contraptions are contraptions that they would probably sell on online marketplaces. So, this seems like one of those fun challenges, which does seem pretty difficult, but we could also do ourselves. So I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I thought the build up was a little slow, but all in all, it was a good challenge.
Yeah, I agree. This is a fun challenge. I like watching it that it looks easy, but it's also so hard at the same time. Like it's easy to just get overwhelmed and be like right, left, right, left. It's hard. And then like to timing it and to look at all these balls. And I feel like sometimes it just feels like it's going either so slow or so fast. And then next thing you know, it's gone. So I personally enjoy it. Do you like as a longtime Survivor fan, do you think this is overused? Do you love it? I mean, you voted for it, so I'm assuming, will you actually really like it?
Yeah, this fits into a very easy category for me of it's overrated, but that doesn't mean it's bad. That's like for the New York Yankees organization. Franchise player Derek Jeter. He is definitely an overrated player, but when you're rated as like a 10 out of 10 and being overrated means that you're really a 9 out of 10. That's still great. So this challenge is probably safe thing. It's probably in a scale from -5 to +5. This challenge is rated as a +5. In reality, it's probably a +4, but that is still excellent. I love it's simple. It's just the contraption here. So like I immediately understand as a viewer as they start playing. There's a build up, like F pointed out. It starts off slow on purpose. Jeff also gets to say, like, all right, this is gonna be the warm-up period for you to get comfortable. But really it's just about tension building on TV because you're right, you could definitely start with the 2 right away. But the tension, you wanna build with the tension.
Ah,
And
screw
and
that.
like make the people playing nervous too, right? Like make them feel tense. Their strategy too, because if you noticed, once this really matters once there's 2 balls, when you grab 1, you can take your time putting it back in pretty much whenever you want. Obviously, if you eventually the second ball is gonna come out, so you don't wanna take too long, but you're probably trying to get it evenly spaced, and you're trying to do the estimation. It's going around in circles, so it's a little hard to tell by looking at it, but it's up to you. You make the decision. It's dexterity as well to grab it. You need to stay focused. So it's a lot wrapped into a very simple concept, and I think that makes it uh excellent challenge. But little overrated, I understand, but excellent despite being overrated. I'll be happy to see if we get it the 10th time in season 50.
Ooh. I do
What if
think
season 49 beats you to it?
that's
I mean,
that
it's
would really
possible.
break it off. I hope not. I actually do not want that. Because it'll be
Yeah, I
nice
don't
to have
know
like
if
the
it's ever
10th one is the
been.
50th, you know?
Yeah, I have to look it up. I don't know if
I
it's
guess
ever
that's
been
true.
in back-to-back seasons, but it's
Is
been
this
in like very close seasons.
like only in like not like new era because it's 40, but is it like a new as in like the last 20 seasons or new as in the last like 30, 40 seasons? How new is this that it's becoming like a cult favorite,
The
you know?
first time this challenge happened was in 2009. So it is not
Mm,
brand new.
okay, okay. So it's been a while. I feel like when people see it, it's like an iconic moment. You know what I want? I want the food auction. This season they didn't have the food auctioning, and I need
Oh,
it. I
yes.
like it a
I
lot.
agree. I did like that too. Yeah, I thought that was
Right?
really
It's
cool
just
from season 47.
fun. Yeah, running for the
Yeah, I don't know
stuff and then
if
I
it's
like it.
like intentionally they're doing every other. Like it could be they're trying to not overuse it, but it's in a season that didn't have much else. It was missed. Like if this season had been as exciting as last season, like last season, you probably didn't even need the auction anyway. It was funny if you remember. Was it
Andy not getting any money.
Andy who just didn't get the right exactly? He couldn't find anything. Right, that was really funny. So that was
It
great.
was funny.
But this season really could have used it. But alas. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
what I
so
would want every season.
in the end, Kyle, deserving winner. The season lacked it just fell short too many times. But all its bright spots involved Kyle and Kamilla. So it's good that he is the winner in that case. Same if she had won. It would have been it wouldn't have felt quite right if Joe won, but like all the moments I remember didn't involve Joe. So at least that part did work out.
Yeah, I feel like if Joe won, I wouldn't be sad though. Like I feel like he deserved a win and in a way like he was a good person and I liked him. That's why I would say he deserved to win, you know? So I wouldn't have been sad or like disappointed if he won, to be honest. I think that's not a I think not a lot of people would agree with that, but I personally would be happy if he won too. I'm happier that Kyle won, and I totally think he deserved it, but if Joe won, I wouldn't be sad or upset about this season. We got a good guy winning.
Yeah, any of the three, I would say I'd be happy with. Obviously, Kyle was the most deserving. He played the best game, so the right person did win. But I too wouldn't be too upset if either Eva or Joe ended up winning because they won despite the fact that they were such a public duo that it just. I'm even surprised that they're in the final three, to be honest.
Let me address a couple claims made by Eva and then Kyle, though. During this final tribal, Eva declares that she and Joe were the greatest duo to ever play Survivor. And then even Kyle interjects, and maybe this is more like posturing, but he says, actually, Kamilla and I are probably the best duo. I cannot reveal to you two the names, but I assure you there are iconic pairs of players that eclipse these four players.
Okay, so
Hopefully we
these
see
2
some of
pairs
them.
better.
Yes. So hopefully we get to see some of those pairs as well. I do like comparing these two pairs because they do very different things. Obviously, like Joe and Eva are out in the open and yet are never even successfully targeted. Like at best, there were some plans proposed to get one or the other out, but they didn't even get attempted at the end of the day. So that has to be impressive. Like I don't like take away all the other context to be a alliance that everyone knows about. In this case, just two people, and no one ever successfully even takes a shot at you is incredible.
Yeah. they did not even feel pressured. Eva never even felt the need to use her idol up until the use it or lose it moment towards the end. So
and then the
very
opposite, and then the
odd
other
season.
two, right? Yeah, the other two, Kamilla and Kyle, same thing. It is impressive to be able to conceal a strategic alliance this long. Like I think really what happened is they rarely went on the offensive. It's real. Actually, to be honest, only one time they went on the offensive, and it was to get off Shaheen. The other two times they took action was to defend themselves against Thomas and Shaheen and Joe, and against the defensive to defend themselves against David and Mary. So when you're only playing defense, you're not going to draw attention to yourselves. Whereas clearly, when they went on the offensive, they did, but then it was too late. And even then, they were able to kind of not be seen. So well done, both of these two pairs. But no, none of you are the GOATs.
I can't wait to see who are the good ones, like the really good ones that you mentioned, Will. I'm pumped.
Indeed. To that note, I can tell everyone, all our listeners, and you too, that our next season we're going to watch during the Survivor off season has been selected. I am very excited. Now, you two don't know if I've picked a hated season or a love season. I'm not going to give you a meh season right now, though. I can tell you that.
Okay,
but
I'm excited.
For all you know, it's just it could be a controversial, like where some people hate, some people love. It could be something everybody loves, or it could be something everybody hates. The season number will be season 37. So if you're listening out there, if you know, you know. And that should be starting next week.
Huh.
I'm so pumped. I'm excited. Do we know the title,
Still,
or are you going to tell us next episode about it?
Oh, you get to find out in the opening when Jeff announces what it's going to be.
I'm pumped. All right. And for the listeners, I'm not Googling anything. I'm not searching up anything. So I'm going into this blank, no idea. So F and I both don't know anything.
I cannot say the same thing about myself. No, I'm just joking.
Wait a minute.
Kicked off this podcast immediately.
No, really looking forward to it. It should be. It's always fun going into these blind and just learning about things as it comes. Especially for me, if I've never watched seasons that are similar to this season. Every season I've watched so far between the three have been so different from one another. So hopefully the theme continues here. Would you say this is considered like a modern format Survivor season 37?
The actual name for the era, I'll consult with our Survivor expert. I think this was the new era. Whereas,
really?
like in present day is like the new era.
Oh,
Like 41 till now is its own era, and then there's like a segment until season 40 that's an era. So it's definitely part of the previous era, the one before the one we're in right now.
Okay, so we're going with Attack on Titan like naming here, are we?
That's correct. Yes.
Love it.
Anyway, and then after season 50 will be the new era, and so on.
Hopefully we could escape Fiji in the new era.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we'll see.
Doubtful.
Oh, he already
knows
mud. Something.
Take away the mud, please.
But all right, do you have anything else you want to close out season 48?
Another great season. I love watching these seasons with you guys. Unfortunately, I missed a chunk of this season, but nonetheless, I had a great time. Looking forward to another wonderful season.
Yeah, excited. The season was fun to watch with you guys, and great wholesome moments, as you said, and very happy to move on to the next season with everybody. So I'm excited to see
what, good riddance.
37. No, I'm excited to see what happens in 37, and hope there are good puns to be made then, or else we're going back to some shoulder puns. Okay, just saying.
Oh, we got to step up the pun game. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Will's got to be carrying us moving forward for these puns.
Oh, for sure. So I can't wait to see it. Or else those shoulder puns are coming back. And I hope Ryan Shoulder
Oh,
comes back
boy.
for 50. Bring Ryan Shoulders back for 50. That's my closing statement. Goodbye.
My closing statement for season 48 is I enjoyed a few moments. They weren't enough to make me enjoy the season as a whole. We gotta remember we all have Survivor here, so like the baseline is still technically like I like watching and talking Survivor. So the base level is always gonna be a general positive feeling, but like in terms of being engaged with the strategy, this definitely fell short. And now we're gonna go back to the past so I can get my my fill there. And 49, let's hope we bring some action back to the island. But all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in as a podcast. A great season. Thank you to UF and you, Ange. Thank you for our guest podcast hosts who joined this season. We actually, just a little preview, we may get some more off-season guests coming in to share their thoughts, maybe even comment on season 37, so keep your ears out for that. But until then, and until we speak again, ciao.